Hi everybody, it's Marcy, and today my desk is a hot mess. So, I want to work on the last set of elements for my Dearjuliejulie September Stash Buster Junk Journal Challenge. So today is U for ugly or unusual, and I'm going to do a little bit of both. So I've got this scrapbook paper, and it's not ugly, but it's not a page that I would ever use a large piece of, because it's got, and I've got it cut down a little bit here, but it's one of those that when I look at it, the pattern just kind of makes me almost dizzy. So the only way I would use something like this is in smaller bits. So that's what I'm going to do today. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of this. I'm going to cut one piece into a strip. The rest I'm going to cut into triangles. And here I've got the back of it marked just to make it easier for me. Don't have to mark it, and normally I'm going to be making beads. Normally when I make these, I don't necessarily mark my paper, but for this video I wanted to show you the different results for different sizes, so it just helps me to have my paper marked. Really, all you need is triangles. And when I'm using this thick cardstock, I will normally make my triangles 6 inches tall. If you're using a thinner paper, you might want to go longer. So here's my triangle that has a 1/2 inch base, and then as you can see it just goes up to a point. A lot of times when I'm doing, I like making these beads when I want something kind of mindless and that doesn't take much thought. If I'm watching TV or something, I find that these are easy to do, and in that case I normally just cut triangles and don't measure them out. Okay, this one is going to be a little wider at the base. This one is 5/8 of an inch. So you can see the base is a little wider. And then this one, I'm going to take out to 3/4 of an inch. I made some last night using some scraps of paper that I wasn't measuring at all, and I wasn't cutting them on my cutter. I was just cutting them into a somewhat triangular shape. So, I mean, they're really what you see me doing here on the cutter. Okay, and for the last one, I'm just going to cut a 1/2 inch wide strip of the paper, straight up and down. Okay. Now this video, well, let me get started on what I'm going to be doing. So I'll start with my 1/2 inch little strip of a triangle. Very simply, I just grab a toothpick. Let's be sure I've got my glue handy. And over here, I've got 2 drawers pulled out of my little chest. I just dumped the stuff out of it. And I'll be using this as my hanger for the beads to dry on. So I'm just going to, because this is cardstock scrapbook paper, I like to get it started before I put my glue on. And I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, a professional paper bead maker, but I do like using them for scraps. And like I said, this paper is one of those, I just, for me, I just would not be able to use it as a full sheet of paper. But when it's in smaller bits, it doesn't give me that dizzying design. Okay, so now I'm simply wrapping from the wide end that I put on my toothpick, and I'm just rolling it around my toothpick, trying as best I can to keep it going straight. Like I said, I'm no professional at this, and well, yeah, see, even this one isn't going on straight. But I'm not going to worry about it, because when I use it as a bead on something, so I ran glue all the way down to the end. Sorry, I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this. And I just roll it around. And I used my Tombow Mono. Oh, I didn't get the very tip of it, so that it didn't dry too quickly. Be sure my tip has got glue on it. And then just roll it on around. Then I will take bead on toothpick, and you can see, if you've ever seen these beads made, mine is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Ideally, I would have as much over on this side as I have on this side, and I obviously do not. Not concerned about it at all. So next, let's do the 5/8 inch. But what I was going to say is, this video is going to be probably a little longer than most of my videos. I did not mean to put glue at the very edge of that. And I'm going to be doing it, I think, in 2 parts, because I know the base things I want to do, such as I wanted to make some beads. But I don't know yet how I'm going to incorporate them to meet Dearjuliejulie's requirements. So part 2 will be after I've thought about it all night this morning, and I still had not completely come up with it. So I figure I'll do this in 2 parts, and I'll get the stuff made that I want to make, and then figure out in part 2 what I'm actually going to do with them. Okay, so this one's coming together a little better. And sometimes I find that instead of rolling, I actually wrap the paper around it, instead of basically roll the paper around the toothpick instead of rolling the toothpick around the paper. And sometimes that came out a little more evenly. Okay, so the 3/4 inch one I will do off camera. Let me go ahead and show you using just a 1/2 inch straight strip of paper, because you can also get a bead. It'll be more of a, what I'm going to call a barrel type bead. But And there probably is a name for doing it this way, but I don't know what it is. Like I said, I just make these when I want to use up some little strips of scrap that I don't want to think too hard about how I'm going to use them. And again, if I were going perfectly straight, I wouldn't have any flanges on this one, and I can see I've got a little bit. But I don't want to worry about it because that takes away the part of not thinking real hard about it and just getting it done. Okay, now for that one, I need more glue down here at the end. Okay, so now I've got a pattern bead or beads pretty quickly, pretty simply, and then there's a gazillion things you can do. I've taken, and you'll see me use it later, I've really taken a liking to this Deco Art Triple Thick. You could use, I'm sure, glossy accents. What I'm going to do on these, though, is I'm going to use some of my Dollar Tree Gold Glitter fingernail polish. And I'm just going to paint some glitter onto my beads, just to give them a little sparkle. The nail polish will firm them up and give them a little bit of a shine, and the glitter will give them a little bit of sparkle. Now I just set those aside and let them dry. So there's the first, that was the 1/2 inch bead that I made. Okay, so I'm not going to paint all of those, but that is thing 1. So for thing 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this same paper, and I'm going to use my 1/2 inch, 1.5 inch scallop punch, and I'm going to punch 2 circles. And again, I'm just taking the this paper that makes me kind of dizzy when I use it in a big piece and taking it down to smaller pieces. And my insulin pump is yelling at me. Okay. So now I'm going to glue my scallops together. So yeah, I'll come back in part 2 of this once I've figured out what I'm actually going to do with these, or how I'm going to use them and put them together. Okay, so I'm just going to glue those 2 scallop circles together, back to back, so that I've got the printed side showing. Try to be sure my scallops are actually lined up so it looks like one piece. Then I want, where did it go? Okay, I've got some gold wax here. This is Finnabair's Art Alchemy metallic wax. And I just need a tiny bit. And I'm going to sort of gild the edges with some wax. Gold wax. See that? I got too much on my finger. I'm going to put that there. And you could do this as heavy as you want. I don't want it super heavy. So I'm just doing a very light gold. You may not even be able to see it. I can see it here. But let me come over to the other side and add some. But on this one, I don't want it to be overpowering. I just want it to be a modest little embellishment on the edge of the scallops. More of a gold sheen than gold coverage. And this wax is permanent once it's dry. I'm going to come back over to this side a little bit. All right, that will do. And now let's see if I can get some of this off of me. Okay, so then, and this will become a charm of some sort. So before I go much further, I'm going to go ahead and use my crocodile and put a hole in it, and somewhere I've got a little eyelet. Throw my little eyelet in it. Now this one may actually be okay for Dearjuliejulie. Of course, I'm still going to add more to it, but I've got the scalloped charm, as it were, and then I added the gold wax and the metal eyelet to it, so I guess that would count as two things. Not real sure. Okay, and now I'm just grabbing a couple of my random butterfly, dragonfly, moth cutouts from my scrapbook paper that I've been using. And I'm going to... I grabbed 2 dragonflies, of course. That was not intentional. I just picked up the first 2 things. And I'm going to glue that on one side, flip it over, and glue the other one on the other side. Okay, now you could stop there, but I want to give mine some shine, and you could again use the fingernail polish. But for this one, I'm going to use my Deco Art Triple Thick. And again, glossy accents. What else? There's diamond glaze, whatever your preference is. Then, and this does take a little time to dry, so I'm going to grab another toothpick, put it through, and over here I've got, off camera, I've got some more of these boxes. They're just standing on end so that that little charm can sit right up there and hang and dry. Okay. So that's number 2. Now number 3, I'm going a completely different direction, more toward unusual. And I have the feeling from what I've seen that this is only unusual to me, because I'd never heard of it. But I'm going to pull out silicone mat, and I've got some circles on it that I made with a Sharpie pen. And over here, I don't think you can see it, I've got a hot glue gun that's been heating up. And I've got some wax seal stamps. I'll just use those 3. And I've got a little bit of water sitting over here. And this is the first time I've done this. So, the stamp I have on here is, I've got a sunflower. And on this one, I've got a bee. And on this one, it's just got some leaves. But now, I've made wax seals before, but I've never done it using hot glue. So that's why I was going to say this is unusual for me. So, as I understand it, and you're going to see this, good, bad, indifferent. I may wish I had a bigger hot glue gun. Okay, now I'm going to start with the sunflower and dip it in water, because that apparently helps the glue release. And then just put it on there. So I'm going to move on and do another one. And I can see the appeal to using hot glue as opposed to wax, because the wax can become brittle, and this apparently stays very flexible, and while it will be, I don't think I got that on there quite straight, but not gonna mess with it, stays quite flexible, and while it will be clear when it's done, you just paint it and then use some wax or whatever you would use to draw out the image. And so I've been dying to try this since I saw Maddie at Spectrum Art Creations doing this, and I've been dying to try it. And okay, and this one will just be the leaves. Okay, now I don't know how long those are going to need to sit there. So, that's where I'm going to stop this video. When I come back, I will have figured out how exactly I'm going to use these. I think these I will probably just use on little decorative clusters, so add some fabric and lace behind these. The beads, I'm sure, will go on some sort of dangle, and then the little charms, same type thing. But when I come back, I will have that figured out, and we will finish up. I probably will go ahead and have these painted, so when you come back, you'll see whether I was able to get it to work or not. So until next time, I wish you all a wonderfully happy, crafty day, and I will see you all very soon. Wish me luck on these. Bye-bye.